Are you looking to give your space more character and make it reflect who you are? We explore various design styles to help you identify what suits you and your home. First, we have our design makers of the day, Siyanda and Sakhile of Pate Arts and Crafts, who will take us through the design process behind their upcycled wooden furniture. And next, we chat to Michael Harrison of Head Interiors as he helps us identify and understand what visually makes up some of the most popular interior design styles. Then Andrew Mackenzie shows us the meaning of eclectic as he redecorates a lounge space and then a bedroom with what he calls a modern country twist. Hello and welcome to Design for You. My name's Pilani Bubu. Today on the show, we explore various interior design styles and help you identify what best suits you. Our guest and our host is Michael Harrison from Head Interiors, and he's going to help us identify some of the most popular design styles. But first, our design makers for today are Sakhile and Siyanda of Pate Arts and Crafts, and they're going to unpack the visionary term Afrofuturism, which inspires their upcycled wooden furniture. Take a look.
There's a saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Reclaimed wood is all the rage when it comes to transforming a contemporary living space. Breathing life into old wooden pieces is a great way to give your interiors a personalized feel, and emerging talents Siyanda and Sakhile are in the loop, creating pieces that are not only unique, but eco-friendly too.
Pate Arts and Crafts started in 2014. I was actually always drawn to the idea of working with my hands. So in 2014, I was like, okay, cool, let me try it out. So I met a couple of guys who manufactured furniture, and then I started doing some work with them and never looked back since.
We're involved in both processes. When I create work, I consult with Sia. Sia creates work. So it helps both of us grow in our different fields, but using it in one way and taking out one product. Every piece is unique on its own. You know, some come from just discussions we have. I mean, the Lambo stools came from a discussion about Lamborghinis, hence they're called the Lambo stool. And after Sia created them, they look like two Lamborghinis parked next to each other.
So basically, the bomber chair is just an expression. We try and always create expressive work where it comes from emotion and how you feel. So basically, how I felt at the time was that I wanted to create something that was beautiful, something that spoke about Africa, but also spoke about the Africa in the future. So design, the shapes, you know, it's a very futuristic piece, and at the same time, it says a lot about Africa.
We want to almost become African storytellers through our works. So we want every piece to almost tell a story, and we incorporate a theme called Afrofuturism immensely in our work, which is almost imagining Africa in the future.
We work a lot with wood, and most of it is upcycled wood. At least 80% of it, we believe in upcycling. Upcycling is very, very important to us. So basically, it's wood and steel that we work a lot with.
We recently built a kitchen in Maboneng, but being us, we want to make something extraordinary. So a normal island, we made it 5 times the size. So the whole kitchen is just the island. It's us exploring new ways also, and it goes back to the personalized space. Yeah. We can have our own furniture, but customs is also a big component of what we do. When we say how people receive our work, we'll have one piece like the Mboma. When someone comes across it, it's like, this is amazing, I love it, but I don't know what I'm really going to do with it. I don't know how I'm going to treat it. Will I just keep it there as a sculptural piece? That's why a huge component of it is us trying to create living spaces, because we saw it's not about just us creating the whole one product. It's us understanding the whole living space and how our products will work in a living space.
People really love how you can like take a palette and make it look so beautiful, clean it up, and boom, you have a chair, or boom, you have an outdoor patio set with cushions. And part or a big element in creating is to create from gut and feeling. Connected with the piece, and you're working with your hands and how you feel right now. And I think that's a really great element to always keep in the work we do.
Well, I've always loved the idea of evolving our culture as the African landscape continues to change. I love the term Afrofuturism by Siyanda and Sakhile there. Michael, have you heard of the term Afrofuturism?
No, I haven't. It's a new one on me.
What do you think of it?
I like it. I like the sound. I like the connotation. I like the fact that, you know, I guess we're talking about Africa now and product and furniture and things and
Where
stuff
it's going.
that's going to be going into the future. Yeah.
Well, if you've just joined us, we're chatting to Michael Harrison, who's the co-founder of Head Interiors, a company that's been in existence for the last 20 years with great heritage, and they too continue to evolve with time. Welcome again, Michael.
Thank you, Pilani.
Now, Michael, let's get into the company itself.
Okay.
20 years ago, in the 1980s, what sparked...
30 years ago.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
What sparked the idea of starting an interior design company?
Well, at the time, it wasn't really an interior design company. We were working with a big project, and they had asked us to customize certain rugs, which are very textured and brought a lot of color into this particular project. And they were so happy with the result that they said, well, listen, can you help us with the rest of the building? And so we did. And that's really how things started.
Wow, that's a really bold move.
It was at the time, actually, when I think back on it. We didn't know a hell of a lot about things, but we learned real fast. We had some good people to work with, and we did what we needed to do.
Personally, getting to know you, what is your personal design style?
I like essentially modern, but very importantly, it's got to be warm modern. I don't like anything that's too hard-edged. It's got to be comfortable. It's got to be a home, and it's got to be clean lines, and I wouldn't say minimalistic, but not over-cluttered. So simple, clean, modern, comfortable living.
Well, after the break, we're going to continue chatting to Michael about interior design styles and help you get through that jargon that's coming between you and personalizing your design style. Welcome back. We're chatting to Michael Harrison of Head Interiors, who's hosting us in this glorious showroom. He's got 30 years in this industry, a veteran really, and I can't wait for him to break down some of the most popular design styles. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Today we want to take people back to the basics, just defining some of those fundamental design styles.
Right.
Where do they start? What are they?
Okay, well, you know, there's contemporary, which is probably fairly broad spread. There's modern, there's traditional, and there are a few in between. But I think probably the best thing for me to do is just kind of take you around and give you some ideas of exactly what that means.
That's a great idea.
Okay, let's do that. So this is a particularly good setting, which is an example of what I was discussing with you a little bit earlier. For example, there's that side coffee table, which is what I would call loosely defined as modern, sort of post-Second World War modern. And these two chairs that are in front of us here, leather upholstered chrome. So these are essentially very current, contemporary furniture. So this is a mix of contemporary, modern, and in the middle what we've got here is something that, you know, in the old days people used to travel with big leather suitcases, and so these are essentially trunks, but we've just given them a little bit of a twist and we're using them as coffee tables. So this really encompasses quite a wide range of styles and periods, and what I really like about it is that if you combine it well, it just hangs together and can look like this.
You mentioned modern
Yes.
and contemporary.
Yes.
Can you just define those words a little further for us?
Okay, well, loosely speaking, modern is essentially a period that came in post the Second World War, and there's quite a lot of that around. Now, unfortunately, more reproduction than what used to come out of that period, because it's now at least 50 or 60 years old. But it was fairly simple, well-designed furniture that combined metal, leather, by some very well-known, iconic designers at that period. And contemporary is stuff that we're sort of living with now over the last, let's say, decade or two could be referred to as contemporary. And you can get stuff that is very clean lined, a lot of like bright shiny metal like this, leather. That is essentially what contemporary is.
And traditional styles?
Traditional is more, as the word implies, it's a little bit older. It probably involves more timber, more inlays, more velvets, a little bit more lush in its way, a slightly older period than modern or contemporary.
So blogs always mention a lot of these terms.
Yes.
We usually see shabby chic or Victorian. Can we plug those into modern, contemporary, and traditional?
Well, they don't exactly plug into those because, you know, they sort of styles on their own. And kind of shabby chic is just a kind of mixture of things that happened, colorful, bright, more casual sort of living, rustic being more raw timbers, hard edged, stronger, kind of hard materials and ways of manufacturing.
Breaking it down to the real practicalities. Most people walk into a store and the retailers suggest what they should be doing. Mm-hmm. How can we help the viewer? Mm-hmm. How do they build out of that the right colors and the right patterns? So let's start with modern. What does that generally look like?
Okay, I think modern is great because it implies comfort, clean lines, and non-clutter. So it's not totally minimalistic. It is comfortable.
What colors should they be looking out for?
Look, how about the colors you like?
I love this.
No, serious.
Yes.
I mean, you know, because as it happens, green is the color of the year this year. It's a Pantone color of the year. And I mean, green, you know, we all know about green. So that is a color. So from greens, you can go to teals, you can go to blues. But why not start with the color you like? I mean, it's your home. Have a color that you like. I think that's really important. Keep your palette simple. You know, work around a simple palette. If you've got very pattern floors and very busy walls, you know, it can, and now you got to live with this. You know, it might look nice for the first 3 months, but, you know, sooner or later it's going to drive you crazy. So try and keep your palette fairly neutral. Have something that you're going to like and be happy to live with and be comfortable.
Well, Michael, I think it's really great that we're in a space where you can actually showcase some of this furniture and depict the styles.
Okay.
Let's have a look.
Sure, let's go.
Michael, every week we have a viewer who sends us a photo and asks us for advice around their space. She sent us this picture. She's 23 years old. She's a young professional. She's just starting out. She lives in Cape Town. She has a beautiful view of the sea.
Okay.
And I mean, I think she's got the right foundations there. What she's really like to do is add rugs and fairy lights and some pot plants in the space and bring it all together harmoniously. What do you think?
Okay, so in terms of the pot plants, so to speak, I would take that trash can out of there. I'm sure there's somewhere else it can go, and maybe that would be a good place for a pot plant. On the pot plant, make sure it's a more vertical, sculptural type pot plant versus one that like a palm that is going to spread out, because the space looks quite compact, so you don't want too much space taken up by the flower. You just want that look and the feel of the indoor plant. That table, it looks a little small for those 3 chairs. So what I would do is I could pull it away from the wall because everything seems to be kind of pushed over to the one side. So pull the table out into the space, get the chairs a little more rounded so that it looks like you're going to sit 3 people around it because, as I say, it's all kind of bunched into that corner. If possible, I would recover that bed with something with a little bit of color. I'd lose some of those cushions. I'd have rather less and slightly bigger ones, possibly again to bring in more color. And as and when she can, I think it's a beautiful, nice big wall. You could go for some kind of artwork, maybe woven something, textured something, a bit of color on the wall. Doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. Hanging of some kind, I think would be great.
Thank you for that, Michael. I'm going to repeat you.
Okay.
And Tamani, do take the legendary advice. This is Michael Harrison after all. Just make it personal. Add a bit of color and write back to us and let us know how it goes. And for those of you looking for advice around your space, please do mail us at info@thehomechannel.co.za. After the break, we chat to Andrew Mackenzie of Andrew Mackenzie Interiors as he redecorates 2 spaces in 2 different styles. Now we have Andrew Mackenzie of Andrew Mackenzie Interiors, and he's going to decorate 2 different spaces into 2 different styles. He gives a bedroom a modern country twist and redecorates a lounge space into what he calls eclectic.
Our design philosophy is very simple. Well, welcome to our bedroom, and as you can probably see from around me, we have a rather lovely bedroom, certainly good bones to work with. I've suggested that we keep the basics, the bed, the basic linen, etc. In terms of look, I would probably suggest, based on the architecture of the bed, which has a slight French or country feel, that we're going to give it a modern country twist. So without having to change the bed, we're going to work with what we've got, but also maybe jazz it up a little bit, not go too old-fashioned, and of course add those modern accessories. Just by dressing that with the basic accessories, one can immediately see a quick change. Well, as you can see, we've started dressing the bed, which I call layering. And by layering your bed, you're starting to give interest. And here I found a very inexpensive, just from the market, a hand-woven throw, which I'm going to just add to my layering, giving you that introduction and splash of color, and of course a little bit of that contemporary look. Moving up to the head of the bed, I'm starting off having popped out to my local department store ready-made scatters. I've decided on bringing in a soft French blue, and of course adding geometrics with your stripes, nothing wrong with that, and with 3 ready-made scatter cushions from your local, you've got your bed dressed looking $1 million hotel style. And just taking the ordinary sofa, existing sofa, and once again picking up a bit of a throw, and of course a nice brightly printed cushion, picking up the colors on the bed, and of course focusing again on bringing in a more contemporary style. I've opted for a more modern print with brighter tones and colors, taking a boring chair into something a little bit more luxurious and exciting. And now we're dressing up the sides of the beds, which definitely could have done with a bit of personality. And of course, just simply going out to your florist and picking up a bunch of lavender, picking up the tones, of course, you've instantly got yourself an interesting side table and of course, your country theme. However, if you felt that that was too much of a soft feel, one could almost opt for something more architectural. Say, for example, this really interesting clock that allows for shape, and of course, reminding you of the time to get up in the morning. Balance and symmetry is always so important in creating a calming effect, and of course one of the great tips of the trade. So in this case, I've added in my second pot plant, some old-fashioned reading books with this accessory, and of course we've now layered our bedside tables and I think we've achieved our $1 million homely effect. Well, here we are in our neutral living room space that's certainly in need of a bit of a makeover. And of course, what I've decided to do is take this neutral space and give it an eclectic style, a look that I find really enjoyable and certainly timeless. We're going to start off with our sofa here, on our existing sofa, certainly an item that can be quite costly for some. This particular sofa is a leather, and I find that it's very neutral and can go a long way. A tip I would probably consider is invest in a good sofa. Your accessories, even down to your rugs, we can probably get away with on a budget, but a good sofa goes a long way. Picking up some ready-made, fun printed cushions, a nice throw, turning our boring sofa into something inviting, exciting, and of course, making it a lot more interesting. Just one tip, always remember levels. Levels always create a sense of interest. And of course, keeping going with our eclectic theme, mixing different objects. Who says that we can't mix porcelain, metal, and linen? Moving on to our table. Tables can be quite boring, and I think this is a wonderful opportunity to create what we designers call a tablescape, putting interesting objects together, creating a scene of interest. I love tablescapes, and I tell you why, especially if you're battling for extra seating, one can always build on. And in this case, I've added on some leather cushions, kept picking up on my leather sofa, and as you'll see next, what I'll be bringing in, some extra stools, which can be added or given for extra seating, and of course, keeping with our eclectic styling. Well, here we are in our African-inspired, eclectic living room, and I think we've achieved our job. And just remember that creating $1 million look doesn't have to cost $1 million. I always say, go treasure hunting. One man's trash could be another man's treasure. Come on, Bella, I think we've done our job. Can only hope our client is happy.
I really love what Andrew did with the lounge space there, him pulling together a whole lot of existing items and all of them being of different styles and just making it really work together harmoniously, which is really talks to what you've been saying. It's just bring it all in. Do you have one final piece of advice before we close?
Don't be scared to ask, and don't be scared to say you don't like. You know, I know some people have said to me they've had bad experiences, they've spoken to people, and they've kind of been almost obliged or forced into something. Nonsense. As I've said, it's your home. It's got to work for you.
Thank you very much for giving us your advice and bringing us into this beautiful space.
My pleasure. Thank you.
If you want any more information, any advice at all, you know what to do. Catch us again next time.